Good day guys, Austin here, and in this one today, it's time for a bit of EMU-NATION. Now in this one, I've got so much information that I just cannot get through it all. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to tell you what it's all about, and I'm going to put links in the description on how to get it and how to get more info on it. So I can unleash the fury and catch up on all the chaos and emulation news that's been going on this week. Because trust me guys, there's one hell of a batch of goodness in the emulation scene right now. So without further ado, let's just get stuck in. So first up, we've got the emulation news. As always, it's what we always do when we come into the EMU-NATION series. I can't even think of my words today, so excuse me. For some reason, my words can't come out today. And also, I want to get this one just smashed out so I can get the information to you. I'm working on a few other videos at this moment in time, and well, just some things I don't want you to wait for. First off then, NESiCAxLive, or NESiCAxLive, how you pronounce this, it's unleashed, and it's unleashed to the entire world. Now, all the stuff that I'm going to cover in this video, not just this subject, but all the ones to follow, they will have dedicated videos to go along with them. There's some research that I need to do into all this kind of stuff, the legalities, who was involved, the full stories, the backstories, who wants to be mentioned, what I can and can't do. I just want to go into a lot more detail with that and the scene to make sure I'm not upsetting anybody. But I also want to get all the information out to you guys so you've got enough to play with until you know actually what's going on. So like I said, first off, NESiCAxLive. This is an arcade machine. In fact, it's a very special arcade machine. For those of you who are into the arcade emulation or the arcade games on your PC, you probably know about the Taito Type X series which is playing modern arcade games. Now, I've covered this a few times in various different videos, and there's links in the description down below to that kind of information. However, this is a new one that's come along because this is an actual current gen arcade system which has just been unleashed onto the public. Now of course, when I say current, I mean that this is still in arcades. It's still active, people are still paying for it, so the legalities and all this I don't want to get in trouble with. All I'm doing is sharing with you the information that's involved in there and where to get more information from it. So what has been unleashed so far is a bountiful array of all kinds of games available from this system. Now these are playable on your PCs, and again more information will be found in the description down below. But this is happy days all round guys. Many of these have already been dumped from the Taito Type X franchises, the more older games. However, these are the more up-to-date versions of that franchise, and also games which were previously not available at all. So I'm talking about, I don't know, Persona 4, Ultimax Ultra Suplex Hold, another couple of versions of that, Dragon Force, Crimson Clover, Blaze Blue franchise, Arcana Heart franchise, Battle Fantasia. Again, we've had that before, but this is an up-to-date version. Even some retro stuff like Space Invaders, some of the older Street Fighters. So at the moment, all you need to do is download these dumps, put them on your PC, and you can play them at your own pleasure, as long as you do a bit of tweaking just to get them set up right. In the future, what I'm going to do is show you how you can bundle these all together and play them how they were intended in the actual arcades. Something which would make this more of a ideal little project for somebody who wants to put this actually into an arcade machine, or even just put them on the HTPC so you can just load them up and play them without any messing around at all. So that is the NESiCAxLive big story which was unleashed to the general public about a week ago. I'm late to the party on this one, but there is some big news to come and some more games to come, because I have been talking to quite a few people in the scene and I know that there is more. There is some very good more. Is that even England? I don't know. So next up then, we've got some, I don't know, eye-opening news that has been in the scene for a couple of weeks, to be honest. However, it's little known because people don't want to talk about it too much. Now, I'm going to talk about it, but I'm not going to give any links out there. However, It's the RetroPie image that was leaked, or should I say uploaded onto the internet. Now this can be found in such places that have, I don't know, pirates, and I don't know, so let's say they were docking into a bay. Those kind of places, obviously torrent sites, and if you was to put into the search engine of said torrenting site Attract Mode Ultimate, it would probably come up with something in the search engine revolving around an Attract Mode 128 SD card image file. Now, if you was to download that and put it into your Raspberry Pi, obviously on your 128GB SD card or larger, then you would get a fully working version of RetroPie. Now, this is no normal RetroPie. This is RetroPie working off Floob's incarnation. Now, again, I've covered this on my channel a few times. Floob is an expert when it comes to stuff to do with the RetroPie. Now, what somebody has done is bastardize his incarnation and updated it with ROMs, games, added themes, personalized it, and they've boosted it to 128GB. Now this has got intro videos for all games, it's got all the cart art, it's got all the themes and more themes that you could ever imagine. It's also completely updatable and personalized for your kind of setup, so you can play around with it as much as you want to get it how you're working. You've also got a choice of Attract Mode and Emulation Station to work from, working through the backbone of RetroPie, which kind of utilizes RetroArch as its main emulator working point. Now, because this is so big and everything's included, it also includes the games, the emulator itself, obviously, and the BIOS files and everything to get this working, so it works completely straight out of the box in a hypothetical way, of course. But of course, this also brings on to all kinds of legal issues. Now, again, I cannot stress this enough. This has got nothing to do with the Attract Mode people, RetroPie people, RetroArch, Floob himself. This has got nothing to do with this. They have never shared anything along that with their scene, and neither should they, because it can get you into an awful lot of trouble, especially when it's done onto this kind of scale. However, this guy, apparently his name is Ray, R-E-Y, he unleashed this onto the general public, uploaded his build onto the internet, and now it's freely available to everybody to download and peruse at their own leisure. Again, I cannot stress this enough, this is not endorsed by any of those third-party people who were involved in the actual makeup of this SD image. In other words, the actual software that's on there. This was just somebody who decided to upload it. Now it's on a torrent. It's out there for everybody to enjoy. I wouldn't say it's the finished article. I'd say it's far from it. You still have to do a hell of a lot of more spit and polish to get it to the kind of standard where I would expect it to be on, say, for example, my arcade cabinets. But I would say that it's an excellent starting block to get you up and running straight out the box for everybody to enjoy all these old games on a hell of a lot of systems, and it's in a very advanced setup. So yeah, that is the Attract Mode leak of this week. So someone else who popped out the other day was RetroArch. Now, RetroArch have had a few little, I don't know, newsworthy stories to pop out this week, and some of them are very good. For example, Patreon. Now, yes, they've opened a nice glossy Patreon page. They're not expecting, not demanding, not giving any even an incentive for actually donating to them. They're merely telling the whole wide world that they've now got a tips jar, and any donations made to them will be graciously accepted, and it would help production of the actual emulator slash front end slash whatever it is you want to call this thing. Now, for me, RetroArch is awesome. It still classes my #1 go-to thing if I want to emulate anything to do with especially 90s based consoles. It's absolutely awesome. It's a complete package which kind of universally brings everything together in terms of the controls, visuals. It's very smooth, it's very reliable, and for the majority of the systems which it emulates, it's my #1 choice. Now, the thing is that this is all made for non-profit. The guys out there haven't sold anything, they haven't done anything. It's all taking up people's man hours, a hell of a lot of time, and of course, money for all this stuff has to come out of somebody's pocket. Now, of course, they haven't got a production line with people who they had to pay wages to, but of course, they have things online. They have to have the ability to share prefer all this emulator stuff. They have things that actually come out of pockets which needed to be paid for to get this emulator to work in the first place. Then of course you've got the hardware that it all expects, and yeah, it's just the development process. It all takes money and man hours. So yes, they have made a Patreon page. They're not doing it for profit. They are just doing it as a tips jar for anybody who wants to kindly donate some money towards them, so they can probably invest more money into other things which may help others and you yourself, the donator. You don't get anything for it as far as I can see, but it would help the scene in general. So yep, I've donated. If anybody else does, feel free. But again, they're not asking, they're not begging, they're just saying here's a tips jar. Feel free to tip us up whatever you want. Something else that they've been doing then is bringing Vulkan into the actual emulator slash front end slash whatever else RetroArch is. Yeah, Vulkan has been bringing huge breakthroughs when it's been brought into more modern emulators. Say, for example, the PS3 emulator, Xbox 360 emulator. Those were bottlenecking when using the more dated APIs now. That has streamlined things, and the frames per second shot up once that was introduced. But of course, RetroArch is all about the retro side of things, so there's no real need for more frames per second. Of course, everything is always welcome, but sometimes when you add more frames per second, it brings more breakages for old games, because the frames per second is actually locked to the gameplay, so by giving more frames, speeds up the game, so on and so forth, and it gets kind of complicated. But what this does do is open up more boundaries of certain other effects that can be utilized. Now this API has been brought into this front end slash emulator slash whatever else it is you want to call it. So anyway, Vulkan's now on RetroArch. Feel free to peruse it and use it at your own leisure. So elsewhere in the emulation scene then, we've got a few quick updates I want to go over. First off, Glide 64. This is an OpenGL graphics based plugin. So yeah, awesome addition to anybody's setup, and now this has been updated. It's kind of the go-to plugin when it comes to the graphics side of Nintendo 64. It is very compatible across the board and gives you various different options. And what they've just added to this is more texture options and various, I don't know, updates to do with the way it handles the colors on your screen. Now, awesome update. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Links in the description down below. Download it, put it into your emulator, see if you like it. I would, because it's a damn good little plugin. But yeah, just had an update, so there you go. Elsewhere, we've got Supermodel 3. Now, I've brushed on this a few times in my EMU-NATION series, and people keep on saying that it's not been updated, it's exactly the same as it was. This is updated, guys, literally by the day. They don't post it on their official download page. I'm not sure why. Maybe the guy who's in charge of the website doesn't do much, but I will put a link in the description down below where you can see the thread on the forum of where you can download the latest version. Now be aware that sometimes when they release these, they sometimes miss certain things that certain people may require, whether it be X input, so you can use your joysticks and all that kind of stuff, that you may need to test a couple of the builds out to get the all singing all dancing setup that you were used to on your older setup. But trust me guys, these new builds are awesome. Many of the games that were unplayable are now fully playable. They're even bringing in new aspects to do with the music, HD textures, and all kinds of good stuff. I will be covering this on a dedicated video, but for now, at least you can get your hands on there and get amongst it. So, Sega Model 3 at your own leisure. So this now brings me on to the front-end news, and this week we're doing something a little bit different, because instead of me giving you front-end stuff, I'm going to point you to somebody else who has done it. Now, he doesn't know I'm about to say this, but Retro Humanoid, his YouTube channel is absolutely awesome. I love the thing. Now, I haven't got enough time to configure things to the kind of standard where I'd like to have them. Now, Rocket Launcher is an awesome program which gets the most out of your front ends. If you're utilizing a front end, you're more than likely using Rocket Launcher. Or if you're utilizing it in an advanced way, Rocket Launcher is the way to go. Now, Rocket Launcher can be very overcomplicated, and it can be a pain in the ass to configure and find art, media, all that kind of stuff to get it set up right. Now this guy and his YouTube channel has dedicated countless hours into putting together packs for you guys to do it on the fly. He's got a huge knowledge base when it comes to everything Rocket Launcher-ish and everything arcadey-ish. Is that even words? I don't know. Anyway, this is a long video. But yeah, this guy has been doing awesome work. He's been putting packs together, and I don't think YouTube sometimes give the good guys enough recognition for what they do. Sometimes it's just the drama that breaks through on YouTube rather than pretty genuine stand-up guys in the scene making a real difference. So there is Retro Humanoid's channel in the description down below. Please, if you're into that kind of stuff, just show him as a mark of respect, say hi, and yeah, awesome guy. So next in the front end news, and this video in general, to be honest, is Recalbox. Now these guys have been doing, I don't know, Raspberry Pi front ends for some time, and from the looks of it, you'll probably recognize it as RetroPie. These guys are more or less a mirror image of each other, but they go about things in slightly different ways. Anyway, I'll do a detailed video on this, so forgive me if I'm just brushing over this in broad strokes. I just want to get the information out there. Links in the description down below from where you can get this from. But just to give you a quick recap, in this new one, basically, it's looking good. They've added some new themes. They've added some new extra options that you can access from the options menu, straight from the actual front-end GUI. And I would say this one is a very good option for those of you who are new to emulation, especially on the Raspberry Pi kind of stuff. This one is awesome straight out the box. A lot of the emulators are configured a lot more compatible across the board. I would say the front end has got some valid good options that aren't added to the normal RetroPie option, and also this one allows you to play your games from a USB device without going into configs and recoding and all that kind of stuff. I would say straight out the box for a new user, this is a very good option all around. But again, it's all into choice, and I'll be covering all this in a dedicated video. But for now, there you go. That is this week's EMU-NATION. There's still lots more to come because I'm going to do a dedicated video for each subject that I've just covered, well, most of them, and get this content up to you guys. I just wanted to try and get this out to you as much as possible. That's kind of why the editing isn't up to the kind of standard that it's normally up to. We've just got gameplay going on, but I'm sure you understand that for me to play catch up, sometimes I'm going to unleash a video like this that just has raw content in it. But anyway, it's been a pleasure seeing you all guys. Please like, please subscribe, please do all the things that people normally do in this YouTube world of extra long videos with me just waffling on for hours. But most of all, you have a good day. Laters!